Hey guys, and welcome back to The Legend of Zelda. We now have 3 pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom, so it's onwards to Dungeon 4. Lead on, Maxi.
Well, in order to get to Dungeon 4, we have to go through the Lost Woods. And no, it's not a musical-based puzzle. In fact, the Lost Wood is actually only one square on the map.
What, does it just repeat or something?
Yeah, there's supposed to be an old lady that, you bomb the wall, you find her, and then she gives you the directions for the Lost Woods, which is really annoying because, one, you have to find her. And unlike in later Zelda games where you get the sound cue for what's a bombable wall, you have no idea what's bombable and what's burnable in Hyrule in this first game. So you're literally going to be laying a bomb on every single tile, hopefully maybe finding a lady for the clue for a puzzle that you don't even know is coming up.
If I was more cynical, I would say the game was designed with selling more copies of Nintendo Power in mind.
You could say that, but it's actually designed with something else in mind. It's more designed for communication base. When they first made the game and they were testing it with Japanese audiences, you started with the sword, but then they said that people were having issue with the non-linear dungeon order, so rather than actually simplifying it, they made it more non-linear by taking your sword away because they wanted people to talk with their friends and exchange hints.
Okay, I can understand that.
Yeah, well, Miyamoto took that so much to heart that communication is a big thing in video games that he designed a video game around communication, and that became Animal Crossing.
Oh, okay.
So The Legend of Zelda also helped create Animal Crossing.
Sweet.
Yep.
That would also explain why there's a ton of Zelda memorabilia in Animal Crossing.
Exactly, but luckily Animal Crossing stays its own thing, and even though it's inspired, they're not really all that tied together.
And it's ironic because Zelda seems to be getting back to its original roots with A Link Between Worlds and the upcoming Wii U game.
Going back to non-linearity is such a good thing to me. When I was playing A Link Between Worlds, and I finished the first dungeon, and it's like, okay, here's 2 more dungeons, it's like, well, I guess I'm doing it in the game order. And then I found out I could get both upgrades and go to either one. My heart pretty much exploded in my chest and I died of happiness.
Yep, the first time I played, I did the Wind place, then I did Tower of Hera. Playing through on Hero mode, I went to the Tower of Hera first, and then did the Wind place.
Nice. So I went and bought some arrows, even though I got the bow from the very first dungeon, which, yes, thank you, can that happen in more Zelda games, please? Even though you have the bow, you can't actually shoot arrows. You have to buy the arrows separately. Now, even though I have arrows, you're probably wondering, MBM, how come on your HUD I don't see an arrow counter? Well, that's because your rupee count is also your arrow count.
Okay.
It's a really bad design choice, but I guess they were running out of memory space, which is really weird because the game was supposed to be a flagship title for the Famicom Disk System. When The Legend of Zelda first came out, it was on a floppy, and it had a whopping 128 kilobytes. Could you imagine the massive amounts of memory there? It was amazing.
Gigabyte don't even come close, son.
Nope. It was also the first game to have a battery-powered save system, so no more did you have to do with like the Mega Man passwords, or in the case with Mario, of starting from the beginning every time you played.
Yeah, you could just switch the console off and, resume at whenever you wanted to, really.
Exactly. Luckily, when they ported it internationally, because the disc system wasn't made internationally, they renovated it into a cart format. And internationally, we all got those really spiffy golden carts.
Nice. I'm just looking at Wikipedia here. I'm noticing that it came out in Japan well after the North American and European releases. It came out February 19th, 1994.
Yeah, they re-released it again. So, guys, re-releasing games is not new to Nintendo. They released the disc version, and then they re-released it in cart format as, like, the classic version. Sort of like the greatest hits that we have currently. So, they re-released the cart format.
Or Nintendo Player's Choice.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what Nintendo does, but, all companies do that. So here's what the raft does. You just float along the water.
Not quite Wind Waker levels of sailing, but I'll take what I can get.
You notice that I bought a big shield. It's not necessary, it just reflects certain it doesn't even reflect, it just absorbs certain projectiles. The big thing about it is that you notice the cross on his shield a lot more. This is one of the few religious things to honestly slip past Nintendo of America's very, very strict religious restrictions on video games.
Yeah, we all know what happened to the Fire Temple and the Mirror Shield in Ocarina of Time.
Again, that was after the block. Why?
Well, we won't want to offend any of those sensitive 80s parents now, would we?
Really big thing too that I've had for the entire game, but we need to make point of this, is that the sword beam. It is one of the main reasons you want to be at full health. Yes, having full health is also really nice, but the sword beam is really good for killing far off enemies, and it also inflicts extra damage to certain enemies, so you want to be at full health.
Yeah, well, if you want to play it safe, you'll want to stay at full health and thus have projectiles, and just going back to hero mode in A Link Between Worlds again, that is honestly one of the best strategies to use early on in the game, because you take 2 hits there and you're dead.
These guys are annoying because they don't die to one hit, instead they break into little bats. Luckily, I have the magic boomerang, so I can just get rid of all the bats too.
I never use the boomerang, well, when it's optional anyway.
Yeah, the boomerang is not all that useful here. Like I said, all the items are very niched in this game. Like, even the bow and arrow, which in 3D games is very multi-purpose and like an answer to all your problems, it's still niche in this game too. Here's the second aquatic-based item. We had the raft for clearing out large bodies of water. The step ladder is only used for individual squares of water.
Huh.
It's not... Yeah, you don't actually use it to get food off the top shelf.
And it looks really weird because all of this is like top down and whatnot.
Exactly, but it makes it easier to clear these water-based rooms. And here, I made a wrong turn. But don't tell anybody, this run is completely perfect. Shut your faces, you didn't see this.
It's a secret to everyone.
There's a lot of these dark rooms, and the way you illuminate them is using your candle. You only get 1 use per candle, so I always try to time it so that I can use it both to light up the room, but also as an attack, because it's a pretty cool way to damage, because the flame stays on screen, and it damages the whole time it's on screen. So if you can pin an enemy with the flame, you can inflict a lot of hits, so use your fire smartly.
I'm noticing you're not taking damage from being caught in bomb explosions.
No, and which is weird because the bomb hitboxes are crazy. Like, you could put a bomb like 2 tiles away from a wall and it will still break open that the cracked walls. But no, Link doesn't get friendly fire from his own bombs, which is really helpful and nice. And here's the boss. It's Glico. We will be seeing him again, and he's just a 2-headed dragon. The strategy is just walk around and slash while dodging his fireballs. Once a head is knocked off, it sort of circles around the room and is trying to be intimidating and more challenging, but just like all the other bosses in this game, it's kind of a joke.
That's what that is? I always thought it was like a manic butterfly or something.
No, dragon.
Well, there you go. That's 4 pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom.
With wisdom.
Whatever.
Oh, sorry. Well, Ganon's named with 2 N's.
Ganon band.
There are lots of ways to actually go across Hyrule. Obviously on foot is the easiest. We're gonna get a more quick way from the later dungeons, but at the moment, the fastest way I have to clear larger gaps is the underground. That's why I got the power bracelet up in the mountains before this dungeon. There are certain rocks, and they lead to 3 separate locations. There's one by the cemetery, there's one here by the start point, and one to the northeast of the map. And like I said, it's just really, really helpful for clearing out the big gaps, but you have to memorize which stairs go to which one. But luckily, if you get the incorrect one, just re-enter the underground and you're good.
Well, it's really nice because it's such a big overworld, and while there are certain methods Nintendo could use to elongate game time, I'm glad they don't just make you trek from one end to the other.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is that in dungeons when you get a map, you're given the layout. But with the overworld, you're always given a map, but you're given a map in the sense that you're only shown your geographic location. If you look in the upper left screen, you know that I'm in the southeast quarter of the map, but you're not given features.
There's no landmarks or anything.
And there's no way to actually get landmarks on that, so it's totally on you to either get a map, draw a map, or ask your friends. Once again, Nintendo really wants you to have real-life friends to talk about Zelda with.
Yeah, and it's like the DS games, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, were kind of an answer to that. Like, you could get your map and you could draw on it as well.
I love drawing on my map. And no, I don't just draw penises, I also draw hints.
There's penises at like each geographical location.
Hyrule has been infested by gigantic peni.
Okay, where are we heading now, mate?
We're going to the next dungeon. I wanted to get all the heart pieces because I would really like a sword upgrade. The second one is only the white sword. We're not quite to the point where the Hyrule mythology has actually made the master sword yet. We'll wait till Link to the Past to get that. Instead, all we have is the white sword and the magical sword.
I found it kind of weird that you could actually reforge the Master Sword in, again, A Link Between Worlds, which, don't worry, we'll get to at one point throughout HFC's career. Like, how could you upgrade the legendary sword, the Blade of Evil's Bane?
It's the same thing in A Link to the Past, and it's upgraded by gnomes, no less. I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be some huge reference to Excalibur being made by gnomes or some shit, but yeah, this is the magical sword. This is your level 3, it's fully upgraded, and it has kind of a cool little sprite, like it's got a hilt and all that stuff. The reason I need that is because the upcoming dungeon has a lot of dark nuts.
It kind of looks like the Kokiri blade.
A little, yeah. This is the one of a few potion shops across Hyrule. In order to access them, you have to visit first the old man who gives you a piece of paper. I think it's a receipt or something. Game doesn't even say. And he's like, give this to the old lady. And you're like, what fucking old lady? But that's the whole game. It's pretty much, what the fuck does that mean? But you get the receipt. And when you find one of the old ladies who just happens to not say anything to you, so you're like, what the fuck do I do? You use the receipt and it opens up a potion shop. You get 2 potions, the blue water of life and the red water of life. The blue water of life is a 1-use, fills up your heart potion. The red water of life is a 2-use, fill up your hearts. So it's always better to get to 2-use because it's like 1.5% the cost of the 1-use. So just farm a little bit more and get your 2 uses.
So blue is basically the blue potion of nowadays, and red is kind of like Lon Lon milk.
I'd say blue is the red potion, and then red is the milk. Yeah. The boulders are random. I got super lucky not getting hit by them, so yay me.
He's the master of RNG, is that, Mexu?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, a lot of the RNG in this game can be manipulated, but some stuff is still out of your reach. This puzzle is similar to the Lost Woods. There's an old man who tells you to go up, 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 and that's it. And you're like, what does that mean?
Okay, I'll just write that down, make a note of it.
Yeah, but it just means that when you get to this area, you're supposed to continuously go north and you get to the Lizard Dungeon. Which, like I said, is neon green. Ow, my eyes.
Yeah, let's just stay in darkness as long as we can. Oh my god!
No, I'm gonna use fire on these Gibdos. I love how when an enemy carries a key, you can physically see it within them.
No, wait, this is my house key! Ah!
No! I always found it weird that this one Gibdo has bombs within him because, and this is just funny to me, but Gibdos are in the group of enemies that drop bombs, so it's like, you drop bombs anyways, why are you holding bombs?
Just for safekeeping, I was gonna drop them off at the bomb depository.
I guess. Here's another room of dark nuts that are insanely difficult to beat. Again, you cannot hit them from the front, you have to flank them, and the difficult thing is that they move erratically. Like, you'll position yourself to be like, alright, I'm gonna aim my sword beam. Oh, nope, he turned and looked at me. God damn it. And then you gotta move around. And if you don't have sword beam, it's even worse because they're only damaged with sword. So don't use your arrows, don't use your candle. You have to be up close to them then. And to be in range to hit them, they're in range to hit you. And once again, because they're moving erratically, you think you're safe because, alright, I'm sort of behind him, and he pulls a 180 and walks right into you.
It's probably a good job you recorded this game, because if I did, it would probably kill me.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why I always say that the 3D games are so much easier, is because even in 3D games, enemies tend to stay still more often. I mean, back to Ocarina of Time, the most difficult enemies to swordplay were supposed to be the Stalfos, but even then, 80% of the time, they stand still. And the most movement they have is they jump over you. But at any time, they don't randomly, like, just change directions and flank you. But in 2D games, that's the main way enemies are going to be hitting you.
I noticed in those underground sections, they're kind of like a precursor to Zelda 2, but especially to the handheld tiles like Link's Awakening and the Oracle games.
Yeah, I always love whenever I bring up the Oracle games, like, oh man, they were so weird, they had those 2D sections. It's like, 2D sections have been in Legend of Zelda since the very beginning. Okay. Dungeon 5 also marks one of the first times where bosses of the previous dungeons are going to be returning as mid-bosses. I mean that very loosely in the sense that, yeah, they're appearing as enemies, but most of the time they're in rooms that you can just skip them.
Yeah, it's like, we have this boss, we'll just like make multiple copies of them and sell it as a new thing. That's called rehashing, boys and girls.
I thought it was supposed to be increasing difficulty because, you know, the kid's like, oh man, that was a very dangerous boss. Oh man, now the dungeon's full of them. What do I do, Nintendo?
Yeah, you just like walked past the Dodongos. Dodongo dislikes being ignored.
The Dodongo has social anxiety. I'm fighting all these enemies because I really want keys. Once again, it's so much easier to grind keys in earlier dungeons in easy rooms than having to farm them in later dungeons where they're very rare.
Yeah, shout out to Nintendo to naming an enemy Keys, by the way. It doesn't make deciphering whether it makes you saying keys or keys any easier.
This is Dig Dogger, and the hint is that he doesn't like noises. So the strategy I like to do is place a bomb, play the flute, and then while he's exploding, place another bomb. Because what happens is that he breaks up into little bits, but because I have a bomb waiting for him, it just explodes all the little bits and he's dead.
Triforce Shard get. And the sound of the flute is also in Super Mario Bros. 3, I believe.
And in Ocarina of Time. In the very beginning. Zelda and Mario, they go way back. They were actually being made at the same time. I've been saying a lot in this playthrough that, you know, Zelda is very non-linear. There's a reason for that. It's because when they were making Mario and Zelda at the same time, Miyamoto and, Tezuka, they were pretty much splitting the two, any ideas that they came up with, they split them between Mario ideas and Zelda ideas. Right. Mario was supposed to be very linear, and it was supposed to have less emphasis on your score and more on beating the game. Whereas Zelda was supposed to get all of the non-linear ideas and the more communal, like sort of outside of the game gameplay.
Right.
And of course back then it wasn't even called Legend of Zelda, it was the Hyrule Fantasy Legend of Zelda. So maybe Zelda's specific legend was only supposed to be like one of many things, you know, kind of like it's the Morrowind of the Elder Scrolls. So that it would have been kind of cool if that actually became the case.
Wizrobes. I don't even need you to tell me.
Yeah, the Black Mages are... You know what? I'm gonna say they're the worst enemies in the game. They're the worst. Followed by Dark Knights, followed by later enemies. But no, I'm 100% in agreement with you, Tom, that Wizrobes are the worst. Because they have long-range magic attacks, and they can only be damaged by some of your items, and the worst ones are the blue ones, because when they go invisible, they can go invisible and move diagonally, and all of a sudden become visible right on top of your sprite. Because fuck you!
I think the best Wizrobes are the ones in Wind Waker, because it's so cathartic when you kill them.
I like them because they're Toucan Sam. The ones in Majora's Mask are just pathetic, but it's always a rule of thumb to me that if Wizrobes are in a Zelda game, there's a very high probability that it is the most annoying enemy in the game. Luckily, there's a lot that can be skipped. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that can be skipped. But because I got the big shield, they're sort of sound wavy attacks. I can block them, luckily. If I didn't get the big shield, or say a like ate it, then I'd be at the mercy of all their magical attacks.
So really, you can play the game how you like. You don't have to go for these upgrades. They just make the game a lot easier.
Oh no, and that is such a really... It's a good thing about this game. In this playthrough, I get all the upgrades.
Very nice.
You're welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Maxi.
Here's our magical wand. It's useless.
Just hold it up anyway, like you give a shit, Link.
And there you go, Link. He's happy, you know? Give him credit. I mean, he's, what, a 12-year-old kid in a world all by himself. There's only monsters here. He needs some companionship, so the rod's gonna be his new friend.
Oh, that's the point, Maxi. When are we gonna bring up the Zelda timeline?
Never.
Okay, moving on.
Alright, this is the timeline where HellfireComms just doesn't give a shit.
This is the timeline where I don't give a fuck.
Once again, candle. Like, I know I've been saying a lot of items are useless, but the candle is the one that other people seem to claim is really useless, but I use it all the time. It is such a good item.
An idea just popped into my mind. Imagine a Zelda boss, which is a ghost, and it possessed your items, and it basically had multiple forms, and you had to defeat each one in turn.
I think you just described the final boss of Final Fantasy X.
Huh.
Except it possessed your summons.
Oh, how about though? See? I'm contributing, guys!
This dungeon is almost over anyways, but yeah, this is one of the dungeons where I like to have a spare potion, mostly because of the whiz ropes. Like, they're not difficult, it's just they send so many at you, and their movement, again, is erratic. You wouldn't think erratic movement would be that big of a deal. It is. And here's Goma. You would see her later on. She dies to one arrow to the eye. Goodbye.
Yeah, I think the one in Ocarina of Time dies about as fast, honestly. That's all the time we have for this part of The Legend of Zelda. We'll see you all next time for the finale.